Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Alan Barry Labucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. This is my weekend edition on Sunday, the 2nd of November at 8:52 Eastern Standard Time. Getting a little bit of a late start because I had a lot of good stuff to prepare and topics to discuss. So I'm going to get right into that. And the reason I like to put gold on the screen while I'm talking about these topics is I think that they all are leading to gold getting much higher. And the same can be said for silver and the precious metal stocks. So let's get on to it. The Fed cut interest rates by a quarter point this week, and they say that December rate cut is not a foregone conclusion. I think it is, and I'll talk about why I think it is later. Powell says they aren't worried about an AI bubble because, unlike the dot-com era, these companies actually have earnings. But whenever the Fed says not to worry about something, I think it is time to worry about it. The valuations are very high, and they are benefiting a lot from the circular accounting, where one company invests in another company, and that company then buys product off the first company, and it goes around and around and around. At the end of the day, who's making money off of AI? All of these AI services or products, everybody wants them for free or as close to free as possible. So, although it's costing a lot of money, billions to build out the infrastructure, nobody's making any money off of it. And the only earnings are due to this circular accounting. So, I uh, I think, as I said, that if the Fed says don't worry, I think it's time to be worried. Mag 7 stocks are the valuations of the Mag 7 stocks are very stretched. All but one of them is trading at over 30 times forward earnings, which makes them priced for perfection. The only one that's trading slightly under 30 times earnings is Meta, and they are now at a net debt position of $6 billion, even though they're making free cash flow. So that's kind of indicative of the problem. Bitcoin is struggling as the bulls have formed a battle line at the 200-day moving average. They've had to fight really hard and even go as far as the full court press on bashing real gold. It looks like they are worried that real gold is taking the spotlight away from their fool's gold. Going forward, it looks like switching from Bitcoin to real gold is a much better bet. When asked about regional banks, Chairman Powell, or about them having issues due to subprime auto loan companies challenged, uh, Powell said that, or I mean, sorry, Jamie Dimon said that when you see a cockroach, there are always more. Signs the cockroaches are coming to the hotel is that the Fed had to do a $29 billion in overnight lending, which is the highest in 4 years. So if there's nothing to worry about, as Powell tried to say that these issues are not systemic. Well, seems to be $29 billion there that of overnight lending that suggests that maybe this is a bigger problem than not systemic. Trade talks between China and America have reached the framework agreement stage, not a signed agreement, framework agreement. But when I read the statement from the White House, it seems more like a list of demands for China. Belittling China is not a winning strategy, and my guess is an actual signed trade deal is still on shaky ground. Meanwhile, the death spiral of debt keeps getting worse. The debt is now over 38 trillion and on the way to 40 trillion, possibly by the end of 2025. But it won't take, if it doesn't land at that by the end of 2025, I think it reaches that level in January. And adding more pressure is the unsustainable cost of servicing the debt, which keeps on growing. And another bullish reason or another reason to be bullish on gold is that the fiat currency and debt system remains broken. No politician is worried about dealing with the debt situation, and they just keep making it worse by spending more. Although I did see Ben said try to say, well, due to the shutdown of the government, they're not spending as much. Well, that's a deferred spending because as soon as they open back up, guess what happens? They spend everything that they didn't spend while the shutdown is happening. Um, while concerns about, or another reason to be bullish on gold, silver, and the precious metal stocks is the concerns for stagflation continue to grow. The perfect storm for gold, silver, and precious metal stocks keeps getting more perfect. When Powell mentioned that a December rate cut is not a foregone conclusion, I think it's a bluff. As he mentioned, a reason is that they are, or his reason is that they are driving into fog with no data due to the government shutdown, which could make them slow down to be cautious. Now, if all of a sudden the problem in the jobs market were to get better, well, then maybe this is more than a bluff. But it's not because the jobs market is not getting any better due to these quarter point moves. And but in Fed speak, I believe that what he was saying was trying to send a message to the politicians to end the government shutdown so they can get their beloved government statistics, which are hogwash anyways, but those are the dots they plot. And so, with the government being shut down, they can't get the data that overstates the jobs and the economy and understates inflation. Um, they did at the meeting on Wednesday stop QT as of the I think it's November or December. They're ending QT and will be starting to roll over into the short end of the debt curve. They failed in their effort to normalize their balance sheet, unless, of course, 6.5 trillion or slightly above that is the new base. If that's the new base, that's a problem on its own. Powell only has 4 meetings as the chairman, then a much more dovish chairman will be appointed. I don't see it being Stephen Mirren because he is failing at his audition for Trump and Besant. All he has been able to do is dissent and say that he wants a 0.5% cut, and unable to convince others on the board to cut by that 0.5 point and get more dovish. If the new top dog wants to slash to accommodate Trump and Bissett and get back on the path to the free money era, then the Fed will have to manipulate the yield curve by getting back in the QE business. Folks, nobody really talked about the end of QT and what comes next. That's QE. And so the balance sheet base of 6.5 trillion is not going to hold, and it will be on the way back up again past 9 trillion. Uh, See what I mean about the perfect storm for gold, silver, and precious metal stocks getting more perfect? The list of reasons above to be bullish on gold, silver, copper, or gold, silver, precious metals keeps just keeps growing. Below is my or next is my in the description of this video, I'm going to put out my current list of metal stock picks. One change I am making is I'm dropping coverage of Hercules metals. They will be moved to my radar screen as I'm concerned that even if they do find hot hits with their current drilling, they may be too deep to garner much excitement. I'm covering a lot of stocks these days, and I have some on my radar screen that I want to add to my current pick list. So dropping one or two here and there makes sense to me. The gold and silver miners are free cash flow machines, as can be seen in the recent quarterly reports by several of the majors. And the fourth quarter is going to be an absolute barn burner. So that's why I have a list of major precious metals miners, mid-tier gold miners, and junior gold miners. And again, that will be in the list below. Um, Before I talk about my unicorn picks and my top of mind picks, there was some news out during the week that I just want to quickly highlight here. Let's see. One of those was from Kirkland Lake Discoveries. They've had two really good news releases out of late in the last week, 10 days. One of those was Kirkland Lake Discoveries announces closing of a non-brokered private placement for 12.7 million. That will load them up for cash. And then just a few days ago, they announced that Kirkland Lake Discoveries hits 31.38 meters of 1.22% copper, 36.5 meters of 1.03%, and 27.35 meters of 1.2%, 1.27% copper equivalent from right at the surface, and makes a new gold discovery 2 kilometers northeast of the Winnie Shaft. Now, this information I talked about with their CEO, and you can find that on either my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News or also on my Substack at rocksandstocks.substack.com. And so I advise you to take a look at that because we talked about these recent drill results and also the private placement and the work that they're doing. They're doing a bunch of exciting work that will result in more news and more interviews from me. Makes me happy because I'm a shareholder of the company, and I think they're going to have great news flow going forward. So then Goliath this week also had very good results out. On October 27th, they announced that Goliath drills multiple high-grade gold intervals up to 10.72 grams per ton of gold over 7.83 meters, including 20.37 grams per ton of gold over 4.1 meters at the 1.8 kilometer squared Sherbet discovery that remains wide open. Now, I have consistently, and by the way, I had an interview with just a few days ago with Roger Rosmus as well. And you can find that on my YouTube and on my Substack or also on my X account, Alan B Reports. So just quickly, here is some images of the visible gold in the drill core. Now, I keep on highlighting this map to people right here because of the phenomenal amount of visible gold to the naked eye that they've found in their drilling at the Sherbet discovery. Look at all this widespread visible gold. Now, this is a top-down view or a plan view, as it's called in the mining business. You're looking from on top down, and you can see all the distribution, which again is quite phenomenal. You're looking at over a 1,200 meters from this dimension, another almost 1,000 meters in that dimension. And if you go from the top down, there's about 800 meters of vertical relief. And inside that area is where all this visible gold is located. Now, I'm going to zoom back up here because there is another map that is a cross section, and now you're looking at a slice of the earth, and you're looking into one area, and from the side view. And as you can see, look at all this visible gold that you can see. There's a particular one called the Bonanza BN2 vein, and look at some of these hits in it. 12 grams over 11 meters, 13 grams over 6 meters, 11 grams over, or 11.7 grams over 11 meters, 12.52 grams over 8, 7.95 meters, 15 grams of gold over 11.9 meters, 11 grams of gold over 27 meters, and then here in this recently reported hole, 10.72 grams over 8 meters. You know, if you see these kind of, what did I do here? Sorry about this. I click too much sometimes. But, and this is one of multiple veins that are stacked one on top of the other. And this also emphasizes something that I keep talking about. Here's a series of stacked veins that dips in this direction. And here's another series of stacked veins that dips in the opposite direction. So one goes out to the east and one goes out to the west. These stacked veins on their own are quite impressive because that's what the Pogo mine up in Alaska is made up of, is a bunch of these stacked veins with high grade gold throughout them. Same thing is happening here, but you've actually got two separate series of stacked veins. One of them goes towards the east and one of them goes towards the west. Ultimately, how I describe this is I think that you can think of sort of like a bathtub with the magma chamber below the bottom of the bathtub, and then coming up the sides is the juices, as we call them in the mine business, which is your fluids that contain the gold, are likely feeding one side and feeding the other side of a series of stacked veins. I call it a unicorn pick. I call it one of my high grade gold explorers with an important discovery. And it really is a unicorn type discovery. These don't come along very often in the Golden Triangle of British Columbia. One of the great ones was the Eskay Creek mine, and also one that my audience is very aware of, which is the Bruce Jack mine that was mined by Pretium. I followed that from before they became a mine, it became a mine through to them getting taken over because it was such a good mine. And I think that the Sherbet discovery is going to fall somewhere in between. I think it could be better than Bruce Jack, and I think it could be on its way to being in between the Bruce Jack, oh, excuse me, the Bruce Jack Discovery and Eskay Creek. I know that sounds very bullish, but come on, look at all of this visible gold in this system. That is very unique, folks. You don't see this very often where you see that much visible gold. So great discovery. And I could talk about it a lot. I'm a shareholder of the company. I'm a happy shareholder. I don't think I own enough, and I'll look for weakness to buy more. All right. Oh, I got Goliath up twice there in my list of companies to talk about. The next company up is Chally Gold. Chally Gold is a tiny little company, but it's run by Joanne Fries. And Joanne Fries had tremendous success in the 1990s because she was the qualified person geologist for Arequipa. Arequipa made a tremendous discovery and in a very short period of time went from 30 cents to $30 and it was bought out by Barrick. It was one of the great discoveries in the 1990s. And so Joanne Fries, and that project was in Peru. And so Joanne Fries has a lot of experience in Peru, and she was able to get a project from Pan American Silver that because Pan American Silver has, a lot of great mines, this exploration project really didn't get the love that it needed. And Joanne Fries and her team will be able to give that the love that it needs. And that is the Pico Machai project in central Peru. And so they give you a bunch of details about the measured and indicated resource, the grade, and that it's open, that it needs a bunch more work. Joanne Fries stated, and I quote, Pico Machai offers Chali Gold both immediate value and substantial upside, especially given that the original resource was calculated using a long-term gold price of just $700 US per ounce. With the current gold prices, our priority is to move Pico Machai forward aggressively. Over the next 6 months, our goal is to update the historic resource estimate using currently accepted long-term gold prices, as well as review and optimize previous engineering studies. Previous owners of Pico Machai outlined a low-cost, low-strip ratio, open-pit heap leach operation. Charlie Gold will work to update these studies to re-estimate the project's current economic potential with the goal to move quickly and cost effectively towards our goal of near-term production. So basically, Charlie Gold was able to acquire a Pan American Silver project that wasn't getting love under the Pan American Silver banner, and now they can now it will get the love as with Charlie Gold and Joanne Fries and her team. So Charlie Gold's one for you to take a look at. They are, let me see, are they currently on my list of picks? Hold on, I think they are. But if they're not, they will be as of this show. So I will add them to my list as of today. All right. Next company, BlackRock Silver drills 5.03 meters of 750 grams per ton of silver equivalent, including 1.83 meters of 1,661 grams per ton of silver equivalent, and reports multiple thick mineralized zones in first assays from Eastern Expansion drill program at the Tonopah West project. So this project has about over 100 million ounces of high-grade silver in the resource. In fact, it is the highest grade undeveloped resource in the world right now. I'm very bullish on this project, and these green areas are where they're drilling to expand on the resources, and the red areas are where they currently have the resource that is over 100 million ounces of high grade silver. These kind of projects are not very common these days. There's not a lot of them. And this one's in Nevada with a town right beside it. I think there's a Burger King somewhere. They talk about a Burger King, I think, in close proximity. Here's the highway that goes right beside it. So it's a great project. Tonopah was built because of the Tonopah mines, and they got the western side of the district, have a substantial resource that has the potential to get significantly bigger. And so that was the BlackRock Silver news. Argenta Silver Corp drills 263 grams of gold, or sorry, of silver over 35 meters, including 425 grams per ton of silver over 6 meters, and prepares for the commencement of the next drill program. That news was made on October the 27th. I've been covering this company a lot lately. In fact, I recently did an interview with Joaquin Marias, who's the president, CEO, and director of Argenta Silver. And so, if you want to get the whole story on Argenta Silver, I'd advise you to go to my YouTube channel or my Substack and find that video. You just do a search for, in the case of YouTube, just go to Rocks and Stocks News, do a search on YouTube, or you can also find all my reports on Substack at rocksandstocks.substack.com. And so yeah, I talked about these results in my In the News show this week. Very impressive stuff. And a real good way for you to learn about Argenta is go to that interview that I recently did with Joaquin Marias. I think you'll be really impressed. All right. And Newfound Gold expands their drop kick zone over an 850-meter strike length, 29.2 grams per ton of gold over 9.25 meters, and 20.9 grams per ton of gold over 11 meters. This is a really high grade orogenic gold system in Newfoundland that just keeps getting better and better. It's got to the point now that they're moving it in towards production. And it's still wide open for exploration and expansion on the resources. This company will just be is loaded up with news flow. So do your homework on Newfound Gold. Okay, before I close this show off, I wanted to sort of describe to you the list of my picks these days. So I've got what are called my unicorn picks. These are a group of companies, four of them, that have projects that are so compelling that I think that they lead them to being big successes. And in the technology industry, they call those companies unicorns. And so I have a unicorn silver company, which is Vizsla Silver. I have a unicorn copper company, which is McEwen Inc. Those are two development companies that are developing those mines. Goliath Resources, I already talked about them. They are one of my unicorn picks, as is Amex Exploration. Uh, and two of these, Vizsla Silver and Amex Exploration, I have to give them special thanks because they're sponsors of my work. And as sponsors of my work, they make it possible for me to do all the reporting that I do and provide that to my audience at no cost. So I have a special thank you to them. Goliath, I'm a shareholder of, and McEwen Inc., I'm a shareholder of. Then I've got another group of picks that I call my top of mind picks. These are companies that are doing a lot of work and have a lot of news to come out, and they're keeping, this news flow is keeping them on the top of my mind. One of those is Sokoman Minerals, another is Sterling Metals, another is Kirkland Lake Discoveries, and another is Borealis Mining. With Sokoman Minerals, they recently had a change in management where they brought in Denny Laviolette. And in a very short period of time, Denny has done some tremendous work in just a few weeks. He was able to acquire a larger land package in around Sokoman's Moosehead project and basically get a big portion of an important fault that's important for these kind of discoveries, these orogenic gold systems. You could sort of think of it like the Abitibi, where there's two key deep-seated crustal structures or faults. These are cracks in the earth, folks, where the fluids that carry the gold into up from deep up towards the surface are crucial in these kind of systems. And so Sokoman Minerals owns a big portion of one of those important structures in Newfoundland. I just talked about Newfound Gold. Newfound Gold owns a big chunk of a parallel fault structure or crack in the earth. And, this is important stuff because I think that Newfoundland could be the Abitibi 2.0 in Canada. And sorry, my phone's ringing and I just have to turn it down. And so the two key players in these key zones are key structures or key cracks are Sokoman Minerals, and they have a big part of the Valentine Lake fault. And that you follow that down, and that's where Equinox is building and bringing into full commercial production their Valentine Lake mine. So that's a 250 to 300,000 ounce gold, high grade gold producer. That's going to be a low cost, high margin mine. And then you just follow that Valentine Lake fault up, and Sokoman has about 40 kilometers or so of that now. And then he was able to get I think the number was a $24 million financing, of which Eric Sprott, who put 200 and some million into Newfound Gold, took down 10 million of that 24 million financing, 24 or 26, I can't remember off the top of my head. But so now he owns, I think it's almost 25% of the entire company. So Eric Sprott is putting his chips into Newfoundland because I think he agrees with me that it could be an Abitibi 2.0, and he's got part of that Abitibi 2.0 with Newfound Gold, and also covering his bases with Sokoman. Now, Sterling Metals is really interesting, and why it's on the top of my mind is they hit a thick intersection of very high grade copper on their project in Ontario near Batchewana Bay, Ontario. This is a really impressive new discovery, folks. I'm seeing some things that get the goosebumps detector going. And I really like what I see from Sterling Metals. And they got more assay results to announce. They've got cash. They can get back in there and start drilling right away. So do your homework on Sterling Metals. I've done my homework on Sokoman Minerals, where I'm a significant shareholder, and Sterling Metals, where I'm a shareholder of that company as well. And then another company that's on the top of my mind a lot lately is Kirkland Lake Discoveries. I talked about them, and I own shares in this company as well. And they just finished a big financing, had great drill results out. They're doing geophysics right now, and in about 3 weeks from now, they'll start drilling again. I think that these guys have what could be a great discovery. They're early days in it, but Kirkland Lake is known for being elephant country, and these intrusion related systems are very important. And they've got a 17-kilometer egg shaped intrusion that they're just starting to tap into. Stay tuned for more from Kirkland Lake Discoveries. And Borealis Mining I'm a shareholder of, and they're a sponsor of my work. They are a brand new gold miner in Nevada. That is a very rare thing these days. And the steps they're taking to become a larger gold miner is they are currently processing a stockpile that was left by a company that went bankrupt in the past when gold prices were much lower. And they left this stockpile there. They also they built an ADR plant. They had all the permits. They had all the roads and the water and everything, but they failed because of poor management and the lower price of gold, and they went bankrupt. And then another company came in and took it over, and then Borealis a couple years ago, Borealis Mining got that project from them, and I started to process the stockpile of material that's now been put onto the leach pad, and more of it will go on. And now they're moving into they got their permits, their expanded permits to grow the production from the known pits on the property. Then this project is wide open for exploration. And when the juniors were in the dumps, they also went out and bought another junior that had a project that looks like it will be a significant money maker, but it needed an ADR plant. Oh, Borealis just happened to have that ADR plant and was able to get that project. And so they've got the ability to grow organically within the Borealis mining project. And then they've got other projects from this other company that they can bring into the pipeline for organic growth down the road. And management has also talked about they are always looking for these projects in Nevada that are too small for a mid-tier or a major, but could be company making assets for a junior. And I love this way of growing because it's how, when I first got into the business in the early 1990s, that's how a lot of companies were built. Even you take a look at Barrick. That's sort of how Barrick built themselves. They just so happened to start with a fantastic mine, but a lot of companies built their way that way. They got these projects that were could be money makers and use those to grow their production. And I see that that's the path for Borealis Mining. And they have the founder of um, the name of the company escapes me at the moment, but it's a current major. And he was the founder of that company. So he knows how to do this. And he is giving as the chairman, he's giving the management, Kelly Malcolm and the rest of the team, the right advice, Bob Buchan. And he's giving them the advice to grow the company. And so that's why they're on my mind a lot lately. And then, as I said earlier, when you look at the market, the Wall Street stocks, the Mag 7, the Bitcoin, all of that is very overvalued or premium valuations. But the mining stocks, the gold, the silver, the precious metal miners, when you compare them based on their valuations and their free cash flow, they're very cheap right now. No matter which metric you look at, whether it's the majors and mid tiers or the high growth juniors or the developers or the explorers, they all are the key metrics for them in each category has them all trading at very cheap valuations. It's like gold is like half, or not half, but maybe $2,500 an ounce. And silver, it's kind of like those silver stocks are being valued as if silver was 35 or less per ounce. The copper stocks, they're being valued like uh, copper was a few dollars a pound instead of $5 and looking like it's going many dollars higher than that. And so that's where I think the real value propositions are in the metal stocks is in the from the majors to the mid tiers to the junior miners to the developers to the explorers with high quality projects. And uh, I see those metals, whether it's gold, silver, or copper, going much higher and really enhancing the value of what these companies have in the ground. And and that is what I think investors should be looking at. Not just the metals bulls, but also the generalist investors. And that's what I'm trying to, I've started this new series of shows where I'm trying to attract generalist investors into this sector because, my gosh, when those generalist investors come to the metal stocks, it's going to be phenomenal, folks. These are very small value companies compared to the Wall Street and the Mag Sevens. And when those generalist investors start getting involved, and I think they already are, and it's really helped the valuations of a lot of these metal stocks, but they're just sort of dipping the toe in so far. When they start, jumping into the pool, if you will, and start where the generalists start talking about gold and silver and copper and the stocks and those metals, I think we've got a fantastic situation developing, folks. And so in the description of this show, you're going to find all of my current picks. And on that note, I'm going to wrap this show up by saying, as I always do, I am not making buying or selling recommendations. I'm merely an idea generator. Uh, I use my 32 years experience in the mining business to that where I've worked with super talented mentors in geophysics, geochemistry, and geology. I have always prided myself on my ability to take very technical information, and I call it geospeak, and translate that so that investors can understand. And so I try to be sort of your first steps or two into doing your homework, but I really emphasize that doing the homework part because in my 30 plus years in the mining business, I've noticed that those that do the best as investors are those that are the most informed about the companies that they invest in and the metals that those companies are involved in. And this is not just a mining thing or a metals thing or a precious metals stock thing. This is true no matter which industry you're involved in. Know the industry, know the companies you are investing in, because even not even in other industries, those are the most successful investors in the actually I've been watching the stock market since I was a teenager, so for over 40 years. I've seen that the best informed people, the ones that do their homework, are the best investors and they are the most successful. And if I can do anything for you, it's to encourage you to do that homework, and I try to help that process along. On that note, have a great day, and we will talk to you soon.